Hello, and welcome back to Beating a Dead Horse. As always, I am your host, Sean McKinda.
And I am your host, Jackson Keller.
And this is our last Danganronpa live stream. It is a sad day for both of us. This has been a great series that we've enjoyed a lot. And as such, with it being our last Danganronpa live stream, we brought in somebody who knows a little bit more about the lore, a little bit more about the tricks and tribulations underneath it all. We brought on a friend of the stream, and yeah, you know him. It's Tom. It's Desi.
Well, welcome to the stream, Tom. How you doing today?
Rise and shine, Ursine. I'm doing pretty all right. I'm excited. I really enjoy this series, and I feel like I was a little bit of a push to get this on here in the first place. So I feel really excited to be able to talk about it.
I will say, yeah, part of the reason we did do this is because you and Bumbo/Pat were like, hey, this series is fucking great. You should play it on stream. And I went, okay, cool. I will play the first one. I got literally to Leon's death on the first stream and went, all right, yeah, I'm gonna text Jackson right now because this series is happening for the podcast.
And I'm very thankful for that to you and Bumbo as well, Tom, because people had recommended these games to me because I'm such a big Persona fan, and yeah, I was not disappointed. I'm glad that Sean got me off my ass to play them all. It's been a trip.
Well, I've been doing my due diligence as a fan of the series to just push it as hard as humanly possible and get everybody that they possibly can to play the game.
So I mean, well, let's actually talk about Danganronpa 3 then. And I'm actually going to open up to Danganronpa V3. You're right, that is very important. But I'm going to open up to our guest first. Tom, is this your favorite, least favorite? Where do you feel this fits in this grand scheme of things?
I would say overall, encompassing the entire thing, I would say it's probably my favorite out of the definitely three games in the series. I'd say that the characters are definitely more, I'd say from the first game to the second game, they started fleshing out the characters more, giving them a bit more of a three-dimensional bit to them. I wouldn't want to say that some of the characters in the first game are boring per se, but I would say that they aren't as flashy as the second game, and this game definitely ramps it up even more by giving us just a bunch of really flashy and really unique for one reason or another characters. I'd say the story definitely has a lot of fun twists and turns. There was at least one death in this game that made me go like, oh, wow, okay. Because I just full up wasn't expecting it, which didn't happen too terribly often in the series, which isn't a bad thing. I'd say overall, yeah, this definitely marks up numero uno in my book.
I'll pass it to Jackson next because this is technically taking place on my stream, so if you might already know how I feel about it.
Sure. So, if I had to give a ranking, I'd probably go 1, 3, 2. And for a couple of reasons, I was real torn through most of the game because 3 makes a lot of improvements, and overall, I agree with Tom in that a lot of work has been done to sort of tighten up the writing and like give the characters a little bit more depth. Because one of the reasons I prefer 1 over 2 is that I think although the characters in 1 aren't quite as flashy, I do think that with the exception of some of 2's cast, that even some of the more minor roles did get a little bit more substance. But I think that 3 does a really good job of combining the flashiness with more of the like personal, like inner character relationships and stuff. So I was really fond of all that. This is definitely a tricky one to talk about. I'm coming off it pretty fresh. I finished it this morning. And if you remember our Dangan 1 episode, I sort of expressed some disappointment with the ending. I'm feeling in kind of a similar place here, where I overall really enjoyed the experience, but I was overall not too terribly fond of the ending. To explain why would obviously be a big spoiler, and most of my criticisms of the games or questions are big spoilers, so that's kind of all I can say for right now.
And just to round the whole thing out, I would probably side with Desi and say this is my favorite as well. I think that the characters as a whole all really flesh themselves out in ways that The first one definitely didn't, and then the second one, I feel like they were all just really bombastic, but in the third, they kind of feel like the hybrid between 1 and 3, where like they're all big personalities, but they don't feel like they overshadow each other. They're all very dynamic with each other and with their own personalities. I will agree with Jackson that I think the ending gets a little weird. I really like... There's... once again, to talk about why I think the ending gets a little weird is a little bit of a spoiler as well, but there's a turning point that I go from I'm really, really, really into it to, ooh, they kind of shot themselves in the foot with it. So it's a tricky kind of thing to nail down entirely. I do still think this is my favorite. I think the first is probably my second. I think the second is probably lags behind by a decent margin. But that said, this still as a whole is probably one of my new favorite series. So like, even if 2 lags behind by a decent margin, it's still going to be high up there in my list of games I really like. So like, I don't think I can say that like of the 3 games that exist in the Danganronpa series, because as Tom says, I've heard that there are only 3 games, and that's it. I really like all of them. I don't think that there's one of them like this one just fucking sucks. Throw it out the window. So.
No, I definitely agree with that, and I know that I tend to be on the show here. I tend to be like very focused on my criticisms with things, mostly because a lot of the time I feel like that's where the more interesting things to talk about come in. But I would also like to make that clear that I pretty much agree with that assessment. Although I don't think 2 was lagging behind by a similar margin for me, I think, until the ending, and then it kind of bridged the gap, although I still prefer 3. But yeah, they're all great games, all absolutely worth experiencing, and fucking memorable and stellar, so...
Hell yes. So is there, like, between all 3 of us, is there anything else that we really want to talk about before we get into spoilers? Like, we always dive into mechanics. Let's talk mechanics, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good non-spoilery place to start.
Because this game does a lot to update mechanics and also introduce new ones. And I heard Tom about to say something, so I'm going to let him go and say what he needs to say.
Obviously, the biggest mechanic that they added to the game overall is the reaction command bar.
Oh, yes, yes!
Where you can go ahead and pick what you want your main character to say in reaction to certain things happening through the story. And while this does seem like a very interesting mechanic, it does, in fact, do absolutely nothing.
I remember finding that and going like, oh, wow, this is really cool. Does it, like, have an impact? And I look over at chat and, like, a couple of people are just like, no, this fucking does absolutely nothing. Don't get excited about it.
It reminds me of how, Tom, you're going to groan, but it reminds me of how in the MGS games, how, like, during codec calls, you can press, like, the triggers and have, like, your main character, like Snake or Raiden or whoever, like, kind of moan and groan at whatever they're saying, and have Raiden just go like whatever, but it doesn't affect anything. I don't know if it's supposed to represent their internal thought process or not, but very similar to that.
Yeah, well, you know, memes and joking aside, the actual thing is the lying mechanic.
Yeah,
you can hold down the button for any truth bullet, literally anyone in the game. Although you don't have to do it for every truth bullet in the game, and it will pop up with the opposite of that, and you can refute a claim with a lie, and kind of just have the conversations go on kind of in the hopes to get to the main point that you're trying to get to in the case, but if you don't exactly have like the right reasoning behind it, it's interesting.
Lying. Jackson and I both have a lot of feelings on this one, I think. Because I remember my first real encounter with lying was in Trial 2. And this is, I think, in part because I split that trial. Like, I finished it on like I started the first half on like a Friday, and then I came back and finished it like the following Thursday, which is a terrible idea, which is why I went out of my way from then to start, like, to just do the full trial in one sitting on Fridays. So, like, I think part of the reason I got so lost and like so mucked up is because I just like the break just screwed with my head. But the other part was like the lying element of it. I could not figure out what the fuck happened with the game. Like that whole trial just threw me for a loop. Following trial 2, I got like what needed to be lied and where for the main story. Like I know there's a bunch of Smash Mouth references in terms of other lying shortcuts, but I never took them. Like you could, if you listen for the song, you could hear the lying song and use that as a sign to say this is a scene where I can lie. But it never felt worth it to me. Like there's already so much that you're thinking about, planning ahead, trying to learn how the story unfolds, that adding that extra little bit of tension there just was too much for me.
It's an interesting idea. I'll give them that. But I think my problem with it is this, and that the way that it's used, and that in order for like them to make good on this idea that like you can lie and kind of bait out a response from someone, that kind of assumes that you're already confident and that you know what the actual answer is, and you gotta like kind of entrap someone. Like in hindsight, I went and was like watching one of my friends play through the first one because I wanted to show it to him. The second case in that game is kind of frustrating in hindsight because there is no real evidence except for the smart character like catching the stupid character in a lie. So like you can see how that might be compelling when you're in the one control of doing that, but the problem is that like most of the time you're not confident in what the real answer is by the time it comes up. So usually it feels like in the parts of the trial where you have to lie, at least, not so much for the backdoor stuff, but during the parts where you have to lie, it feels like the game just wants you to go along with the seemingly flawed, naive, idealistic reasoning of the characters for no other reason than it tells you to. And one of my consistent gripes with this game, or this series rather, is how often I feel disconnected from the avatar I'm controlling for one reason or another. And so the fact that I'll cop to being an incredibly cynical person, but every time
no,
really?
No. So every time like a character started talking about how we needed to trust in our friends, even though there was no real evidence that one of these potential murderers is trustworthy, didn't sit right with me,
dude. In that first case, it sent like it put my there's a word I'm looking for, I'm not finding it, but it put my hair on end, where I'm like, I don't trust you. Like, you're telling me I need to trust you, that makes me not trust you.
Yeah, no, I mean, for a long time, I guess it's not too much of a spoiler to talk about, like, Kaito having kind of an idealistic, like, outlook, but for a long time, like, at the beginning of the game, I was like, I even told you, when you were asking me about the character shot, I was like, ooh, Kaito, I like him, but I don't know if I trust him, and that's specifically why, so...
It doesn't help the fact that Kaito's, like, the go-to, like, oh, he obviously did it, and that's what the game's pointing you towards. Like
yeah, they try to frame him a lot.
But anyway, that's getting a little too close.
Yeah, we're skirting the line.
The thing with the lies is kind of in these kind of action or these like adventure point and clicky-esque games is you kind of have to live in the mind of the creator and try to figure out the puzzles in the way that the creator thought to figure out the puzzles.
Which can be frustrating.
And that can be frustrating, but then it's adding an extra, I would say even unnecessary layer of you have to think of what the creator was thinking of how it could alternatively be done through using the opposite of the evidence that you have. And it's just a little bit of it gives you the music cue, but at the same time, that's just a little too deep that I think that they were pushing it slightly and it didn't quite hit the mark.
Plus, if you have the music turned down, like, at all, like, I had, when I was streaming, music turned down with an emphasis on voices. So, like, for me, I missed the music cue every time. There was one towards the end of the game that, for whatever reason, like, it just connected. I'm like, oh, I need to lie here. And every other one I missed entirely.
Same. I actually totally forgot there was a music cue.
That's a built-in in-game punishment for not enjoying the beautiful music.
I mean, it is great music. This whole series is wonderful. And I'm excited that I can now actually listen to the music without being worried about spoilers.
Same.
Just listen to Scrum Debate on loop for hours and hours.
The other mechanics, of course, are you got the new Psych Taxi in place of Logic Dive. Hangman's Gambit is finally okay.
Yeah, it's getting better. 5 or 6 more games and it'll be good.
Or gone. Preferably just gone.
If it ain't gone by now, it's never going to be gone.
No, Hangman's Gambit, it is always driving me nuts because it's always looking for one specific word, and I always start off by just being like, all right, I'm gonna pick 3 random letters, and hopefully my brain fills in the rest from there.
Yeah, I was actually frustrated that this one didn't give you any Wheel of Fortune letters to start off with. I think only the first one did. I can't remember. If the second
the
one
first
did.
game, the first games was pretty passable. It wasn't anything special, but it wasn't really that terrible. And then the second game just dove head first into the trash.
The second game's Hangman's Gambit was by far several magnitudes, or by an order of several magnitudes, the worst minigame of all of them.
Oh my god, it was. Ugh.
But yeah, Tom, how do you feel about these new mechanics? Well, you're the guest here, so.
Like I said, I feel like the mini games are definitely an improvement over the ones in 2, except for there's a little bit of a. I'd say both 2 of them go up, and the Logic Dive to Psych Taxi just kind of goes into a straight line of it's kind of on the same level. I feel like the addition of the Scrum Debate mechanic, I think, is a load of fun. Of it just going back and forth and and just trying to work your way through it that way. It's kind of it's weirdly it's a bit like Logic Dive or Psych Taxi in a way. It's just you have voice lines going through it.
Yeah, I generally agree. I think that most of the new minigames they added, I think that this is, the lying mechanic notwithstanding, probably the most polished one. I'm more fond of Logic Dive just because I like the snowboardy, jumpy around kind of platforming stuff, but Psych Taxi
Tony
is
Hawk's
good
Downhill
too.
Jam.
Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam. So
SSX Tricky.
But that's just more of a personal preference. Psych Taxi is still stylish and cool and fun. But I do like how of the new mechanics they added, the Scrum Debates and the the 3-way nonstop debates. Those feel like logical extensions of the existing mechanics and what would be going on. Particularly the Scrum Debates is a good angle for how a situation like this might actually go, and kind of people taking sides and stuff. So I really like that representation.
I'll tell you what, though, that mass panic debate with 3 people talking, it's a nightmare without the skill that mutes the other ones that doesn't have your cursor on.
Oh my god, yeah, I turned basically everything, that mass panic debate. I got both of those power-ups after the first one because I'm this is gonna be so fucking hard.
I found it not that terrible to deal with, if only because I kind of reverse engineered it, and that I looked at the likely piece of evidence and just sort of went through once. I was okay, who's talking about something relevant? So I didn't find them too bad, but they're a lot.
Other than that, the big, I guess the last question is, what do you guys think of the location? Obviously we've gone from high school to island and then back to high school?
Yeah. Sorry, I keep cutting in. I have feelings. Tom, go ahead.
I feel like it's definitely, it feels good to get back to the school environment after being on the island for so long. I feel like there wasn't really much that you could continue on in some kind of island environment, and I don't really think that there's much of I can't think right now of a really good third location unless you go to the moon.
Danganronpa 4 to the
or
moon.
undersea or something. But I feel like it lived up to the first games. Definitely there was a lot of fun places to go explore. I think the addition of the labs was a nice mechanic, if a little clunky here and there, which we can get to a little bit later.
Also underutilized, just as a quick interjection. I wanted to see more of the labs.
Another thing that I don't think that you got many, if any of them, but there are a couple of those secret scenes if you have a specific item on you when you talk to somebody.
I had a few.
There are a couple of those that
fun.
take place in the labs.
I don't know if I got any.
I don't think you did. No.
Oh. Well, sucks to be me, I guess. Like, I saw those things in the present guide, like, you should hold on to this, and I never did anything with it. So, like, I just kept all of them, and then nothing ever came of them.
Amazing.
I guess, wow, okay. Hooray.
Yeah, so generally I agree. I think as far as, like, the visual aesthetic, the first game still is kind of my favorite atmosphere. I like a lot of the colors used there, but I really like how they shifted up the formula in some cool ways to make this not feel like we're just going to the school again. I like how, even though it's a little different, I like how kind of overgrown things are, and they're kind of doing upkeep like as the game goes on with the big robots. The labs, like you mentioned, really good addition, if I also agree a little bit underutilized. I also liked how progression wasn't quite as linear as far as Monokuma just opens up a new floor for you. I like how he gave you the trash and you had to go and, like, play the ocarina in front of the Song of Storms to get to the pool or whatever. Added some nice branching, little bit of an explorative touch. I thought that was really nice. So yeah, overall pretty fond of the new setting.
I will say, I don't remember Monokuma ever giving us Kokichi.
Is this where is this where we are right now? You invite me into your house and you reward me with betrayal?
Please, he's my nonsense goblin son. All right, do we want to actually start talking about some cases here? Start talking about, like, some grander themes?
Yes, let's dive into it. Dive into it.
Then I'm going to really quick interject and say that next week, Beating a Dead Horse is going on a break. I'll be on vacation, and we just could not come up with anything to put in this break. So, sorry, you're going to have a week without a Beating a Dead Horse. But we're going to make it up to you. We have some pretty good stuff in the works for the rest of July. Like, stay tuned. But yeah, no, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking about Midsummer, because I am so fucking excited about this movie, it's not even funny. So, get ready for that. For now, though, let's talk spoilers of Danganronpa V3. Or, I'm sorry, Danganronpa 53.
Oh, no. It was there all along, you fools.
How could you not see
They
it?
cheated you this whole time, and you never even noticed.
Congratulations, we played ourselves.
I do have to say, the fucking V is a 5 is genuinely a really good twist.
That is a really good twist.
But it actually should be Danganronpa L3.
Oh.
Because that's 50.
But
no, it is a pretty decent twist, because it's like, after they said, like, the anime is 3 and this one is V3, it was just kind of sitting there that whole time, like, why'd you call it V3? It's like, we know you want to separate the 3 anime from the 3 game, but it's like, why V?
I always thought it was like version 3, and then
yeah, I mean that would go along with Tom, kind of what you were talking about in the pre-discussion, how they did a lot in the marketing to try and distance itself from the previous stories. That's what I was thinking, like new and improved, like separate, upgraded, V3.
But and at the end of the day, if they want to be super separated, why would they still call it 3?
Good question. To let people know not to play it before 1 and 2?
Maybe because it's not separate.
Actually, I will say, on the topic of let people not play it before 1 and 2, I did have somebody in my chat who's like, this was the first one I played. And I'm like, oh, because, like, it's fine up and through, like, midway through chapter 6. And then it's like, yeah, you need to know everything about before this.
So here's the question, boys. Do we want to start talking about the big complicated ending right now, or do we want to address some lighter matters first?
I kind of like the idea of doing case by case, just like if we don't have much to say about it, just be like, this was case X.
Yeah, it's kind of like build up to it a little bit, so we can start with our main character, Kaede Akamatsu.
Yes, of
the actual main character of this video game.
So, I got a lot of feelings. Basically, my enjoyment of this game is pretty much on a bell curve, in that, like, the first case kind of put me off for reasons that I will explain. And the last case kind of put me off, and then like slowly there was that buildup of enjoyment. So yeah, you get a protagonist fake out with Kaede, and really, maybe I was just thinking about it too hard, but like I didn't actually believe that in like a degenerate weeb game series like Danganronpa that like they would make you play as the waifu instead of trying to track down all your other waifus, and that impulse turned out to be completely correct. And instead we get Shuichi, who is in the words of Mew, did she call him a limp dick bitch boy? Was that her words?
She called him a beta boy toy and a hat wearing virgin or hat wearing pervert.
Perfect. Both of which I think are fair descriptions of our main man. Yeah. So I mean, I liked Kaede a lot. I thought that she was more headstrong and had more of a personality by Danganronpa protagonist standards. Like Hajime had a bit more personality than Makoto did, but he still like not to this extent where like she was very clearly trying to take on the role of like team leader. And then it turns out that she commits the first murder, or at least plans to. You know, there'll be a wrench thrown into that later. But and gets executed, and you play as beta boy toy Shuichi Saihara. And my big problem with it is that, again, like I think part of the fun of these games is, you know, trying to like figure out the mysteries and stuff, and it frustrates me when the games don't play fair. Like, it's more satisfying if they like kind of get you with a subtle hint that you missed, and I think that's what a lot of the cases in this game are really good at, as opposed to something that like you could not have possibly deduced just based on the information given to you. And that's how I feel like the Kaede twist works, in that like the narration that she gives you is so intentionally obfuscated, and like if you were like an actual outside observer, even if you were just like in her head completely, you would know that she like threw the shot put ball down the vent, but like instead it's like very vague, like I dropped whatever was in my hands, and it's like that's not enough of a real hint. Like, come on now.
Well, if they're not going to spell it out for you, it's not like they're writing Kaede on the wall or something like that.
I'm sorry, 11037.
What would that be? That'd be like 3P3.
No, and I don't want him to spell it out for me, but like I think it's a weird concept in general to like have our main character do something that we really don't have any knowledge of. And I think this is where like my frustration with the lying mechanic begins, in that so at the trial it's like it seems like there can only be two possible culprits, one possible culprit, because you know you're not really considering the fact that you wouldn't have all of the facts that the player avatar does, and you have to go to bat for Shuichi, even though at the moment he seems like, you know, by the logic of what the player can really grasp, he seems like the prime candidate, but you're inexplicably lying for him.
Even then, things don't 100% add up with Shuichi being the killer, and they go into that. The fact that it's like this still doesn't 100% make sense.
No, but I feel like that's after they ask you to lie for him, though. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the case again.
Same.
Plus, I think the bigger problem is honestly more just going to bat for a character like when you don't know all the facts, especially as the player character. Like I do agree with Jackson. I think that there's an inherent like flaw with being like, yeah, you know, you should. Every other case you've known pretty much everything that your character has done. And so for them to start this off by being like, you don't know all of it this time, it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, I can see that definitely. So a weird way that I kind of saw it as I was thinking, as Jackson was talking about it, it's like they saw what happened with Fuyuhiko in the last game, and then thought, well, why don't we have you play as Fuyuhiko? So we have the girlfriend-esque character get killed off, and the big character growth from that. But it's the classic reality show foible. You started playing too hard, too quick. Immediately popping in with the hope, trying to get all your alliances together too fast, and people see that, and you're voted out immediately.
I can't argue with that.
You gotta wait until the late game to start getting your real strategy together and picking off the bigger targets. Classic Survivor foible.
Yeah, completely agree. Retweet. But yeah. So I mean, like, as a twist, like, I'm not too upset by this one. I mean, it did rub me a little bit the wrong way, but it wasn't like a big deal breaker or anything. I was just slightly annoyed because and it's something that would be exacerbated in the second case, which I mean, I don't know how much more we have to say about this first one, but
do we want to say anything about our pierced avocado boy, Rantaro Amami?
Oh, I kind of liked, I mean, he did end up coming back in kind of a big way. I like that, they painted him to be kind of the mysterious, like, Kyoko, maybe Nagito. You don't know if he's going to be good or bad or what his deal is, and they kill him off really early. I liked that a lot, actually.
That said, I did want more Rantaro.
Yeah. Rantaro is pretty interesting in a way, but it's another one of those trends that they bucked of having the big, interesting, mysterious character and then just killing him right off the bat.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good move. Yeah, it was just good, interesting idea. I'm a big fan of, like, the decoy protagonist trope. I mean, there's definitely some strong MGS2 energy through all of this game, pretty much.
I made him promise to limit his references. I did. I'm doing my due diligence here.
They're unavoidable here. There's so many comparisons.
I know.
They're unavoidable.
I'm like, there's no way in hell he's gonna manage this. I tried to limit Jackson here, but I'm like, this whole game is just MGS2 with teens killing each other,
crumbling to dust. I'm just sitting here going like, oh.
We'll save the actual important comparisons for the ending. But yeah, that's about all I had to say on the first case.
And the big important death of the case, if we're going to be honest here, Mono Kid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Mono Cubs. Yeah, pretty brilliant in hindsight, and I eventually did get used to them. But at first, I'm like, man, these guys are fucking annoying. Like, Jesus, stop.
I wonder if it's one of those things where, like, I played this in English, and I'm assuming you played this in Japanese, like the other two. And like the English VAs are a lot of fun to listen to, cause like Monosuke and like full Bostonian accent. I say that because I did call it British before we started recording.
I called it British during the streams.
Yeah, yes, I did. I was very bad at this. And then we had Monophony, who was just fun. I liked her throwing up like. Was always a lot of fun to listen to.
I liked her, and I like Monodam. The other ones were kind of annoying to me, but yeah, they were fun.
Mono Kid pissed me off, and then he killed him immediately, so I was really into it. And like,
yeah.
I think everyone else's interactions was a lot of fun. I like watching Monodam's rise to power. And you just Monosuke, like, he dropped some line about like fuck the Patriots out of nowhere, like football team, the Patriots.
This is the year of the Jets. Fuck the Patriots.
And it's so out of the blue, and it's really fun. Like, I think that they're honestly a surprisingly fun, if it might just be like a translation thing where like you're kind of like the Japanese, because you're not inherently part of that culture, you might be missing some of the fun that you get from the English side of it.
Yeah, maybe some like wordplay. Because one thing, speaking of the Japanese voices, this is not a big deal, and I think that the new voice actress did a good job, and it was unavoidable. But the original voice actress I recently learned for Monokuma's Japanese VA in the first two games was the voice actress who did Doraemon, which adds like another whole layer, because that's like a famous like Mickey Mouse level like children's cartoon character in Japan. So it's like if Monokuma was voiced by Mickey Mouse, he was trying to kill you, even like being a mascot and all.
Oh my god, that's incredible.
It's punishment time.
No, exactly, it's great. Unfortunately, I think she developed like dementia and had to was forced to retire due to her health. So I was very sad to not hear the classic "oop boop 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 poo" from the original voice actress, but the new one did a good job. So yeah.
Let's talk about Trial 2. I don't really have much to say other than I got frustrated with this one because I could not follow the logic.
This is the one where the victim I kind of didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Because they were definitely building up through the entire pre-murder daily life. Definitely throwing up a lot of death flags towards Kaito.
Mm-hmm.
Going like,
Yes.
it's not like we're basically not in no fewer words going like, it's not like we're never going to see each other again.
Oh my god, almost word for
And then he
word.
disappears for like 20 hours. It's like, where are you, Kaito? And
Yeah.
then just suddenly out of nowhere, our small tennis friend just falls into a vat of piranhas.
Oh god, big F in chat for Ryoma. He was one of my faves. God damn.
Yeah,
Still had a
Ryoma was
ways to
wonderful.
go.
Yeah, no. So like I thought this was a cool setup and like the mechanics behind the murder were
Yeah.
neat with the whole setup for the magic show. So I like that. But yeah, the logic was shaky on this one. Firstly, because I think even more egregiously than the first trial, it asks you to go to bat for a character that you have literally no reason to go to bat for.
But he's your friend.
Like, oh, like Kaido, you have a little bit of a reason to, but like, oh, Maki's our friend, even though she's been like standing in guard at her lab very suspiciously and acting, very cold to everyone.
That
yeah,
said,
she's real trustworthy.
I was 100% aggressively trying to hang out with Maki.
Same, totally.
Yeah, I took an instant shine to her. Like, I really liked what she was like. She was totally just, being like, yeah, go fuck yourself. But if you know anything about my tastes in video games characters, the ones who swear, specifically in Danganronpa, I'm really into. Which is why I like Mondo immediately. I like Mew, despite her being,
Trash. Let's just
yes.
say trash.
I liked her because she was trash.
Yeah. No, I thought Mew was interesting. But also, and then in the second game, who the fuck said fuck all the time?
Fuyuhiko.
Yeah, I like Fuyuhiko a lot too. Like,
Yeah.
basically, if they come out swinging, they're like, yo, fuck. I'm like, all right, cool, we're friends.
So, all right. So Tom is now like rewatched the game. Maybe he can help me out on this one. I felt like when it was asking me to like declare Kurumi as the Blackened, I feel like the logic asking me to make that call so quickly was a little shaky. Like, I understand the evidence with the glove, but like it seemed like everyone was just saying like, well, like she was in the gym, but it felt like that they could have set up.
It felt circumstantial.
Yeah, it felt real circumstantial, like not something that I can declare. Like, am I getting it right? Is there another aspect to it that I'm missing, or
Not super that I could really think of. It's a bit of a process of elimination at that point. Once you take out everyone who was at the insect meet and greet, and when you've heard secret, yeah, shout out to the insect meet and greet. And then you take out some people like who have kind of their own alibis, like who was that, Mew being just naked.
Oh my
It
god.
just comes down to only like 2 or 3 different people, and at that point, when you've got like the black scraps of glove and everything, it somewhat points. I think it points enough towards Kurumi more than anyone else. That being said, I do feel like that there could have been a little bit more evidence there to why it would have been Kurumi. I could see why it would be a confusing choice, is what I'm saying.
Really?
yeah,
Just
okay.
to-
Well, at least I'm not a total smooth brain then, because I legit felt like an idiot. I'm like, am I missing something, or is the logic here real shaky? Like, I don't know.
Just a quick interjection. I forgot that Mew ran around naked to try and scare Gonta off. And all I can say is, like, the more that comes back to me about Mew, the more I realize that she is like the definition of hashtag problematic fave.
Oh, absolutely. This 100% bark, negative 100% bite.
Yeah.
Completely pathetic trash is just the best. But that's not usually the issue that I hear from people over this case, is why it's Kurumi. The issue that I hear, which is always kind of the one where I kind of have an easy explanation away from it, but I felt like bringing it up anyway, is the why did she move him? Because at the end of the day, if she would have just left him drowned in his sink, that could have been anyone.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of thinking about that too, but I feel like so what's the explanation there? Because I feel like I was able to justify that.
The easiest justification I could give for it is the fact that, okay, so with the way or she's bringing it, if she leaves him in there with the amount of people left, I'd say that there's probably like an 8% or so chance, if we're like straight up, that it could be anyone. And then with alibis coming out, it'll probably bring her up to more of like a 25 to 33% chance, and things might be getting a little dicey. But if she takes it to the gym, obviously throws it on Himiko, then I think that diverts more attention than nothing. And plus, the one of the main issues is the fact that she left behind evidence that she wasn't. It's not like she did this murder with the intention of leaving the evidence behind.
Yeah, like the idea is to use the piranhas to like dispose of as much evidence about the corpse as possible.
It isn't. This isn't that meme of the guy from Despicable Me going like, "Kill Ryoma, throw him in the tank, leave my glove behind." Leave my glove behind. It's like that wasn't part of the plan.
Yeah, that was unavoidable just based on all the rules that we had. No, I buy that too, because that's just sort of what I said. I'm like, well, like investigating the corpse is usually a pretty important part of these things, and obfuscating the time of death and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that like the hashtag crazy way was probably ultimately safer.
I'd say the only thing that she could have, the only thing she really could have done is taken the handcuffs off of him.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest mistake that she intentionally made.
Rip.
Although, yeah, Kurumi, how about Mrs. Prime Minister?
Oh my God.
That's when things started to super go off the rails, in my opinion.
Yep.
I like Kurumi a lot. I was really bummed that she died. I was really into her character. I hung out with her a bunch. B, her death is probably my favorite. Is second favorite in 3. As a punishment, just because like my favorite part about Danganronpa punishments is like the irony that they're drenched in. And so like just her punishment is so fucking brutal, of her climbing to escape, like given that false hope that she can go do what she needs to do, and just seeing it's not real is so absolutely brutal, and I love it so much.
I like that she's the first character since Leon to really freak the fuck out like that. Like, you know, characters have like cried and like explained their motivations and stuff, but like she is like, I'm out, like I'm gonna run.
Bolted, and then they actually incorporated that into the punishment.
Yeah, no, that was real great, definitely. Probably my favorite execution in this game.
I mean, my favorite goes to Kaito's, but that's for a different reason.
You know what? Mine's
a toss-up between Kaito and Kaede's. Just because Kaede's was brutal.
Very brutal. I mean, these ones felt substantially more brutal than they have been.
Maybe they could have shortened up the shot of her body hanging in shadow with spikes behind it.
Like I feel like in the previous games there was always that like bit of cartooniness. Like they were brutal, but then like Mondo gets turned into butter,
and the less we speak of Mikon's execution, the better.
But these ones were just straight up like, damn, oof.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
all the deaths were.
Oh yeah,
that's true.
I'd say the tamest we get is 2 people get stabbed in the back of the neck.
Rantaro's was kind of tame. He just gets hit with a shot put.
Yeah, you know, brain splattered all over the wall. Super tame.
I mean, you know, that's true.
And also in hindsight, it kind of gets a little bit more different there too, because like there's when it's personal with the shot put ball, I feel like it's a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I mean, I was just talking in terms of the presentation. Like, his brain splatter doesn't, like, look any different to the normal blood stains. But yeah, I mean, point conceded.
I'm digressing.
Chapter 3?
Chapter 3. What would be a Chapter 3 in Danganronpa than a good old double murder?
Double kill.
Almost triple kill, which is my favorite part of the game, probably.
It's a lie!
It's
Kokichi's fake death is so good. I love it so much. Kokichi is my nonsense goblin son.
One of my favorite bits about it is that he is in that. It's like I pointed out to Sean. This isn't like Hifumi in the first game. He is legitimately bleeding.
Yeah.
And yet he still decided to be a shithead through it.
Absolute
Hey,
madness.
check it out. I have traumatic brain injuries. I'm gonna go fucking just mess with everybody.
I'm gonna go lay down a little bit, if that's all right.
No, that's really funny. I don't have too much to say about this case. Just a real nice classic Chapter 3 double kill. The Kyo's motivation was really fucked up in a way that I thought was fun.
I did really like Kyo just killing because he set it up. He's like, fuck
well,
it.
I don't want to let this go to waste.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it anyway.
I already sawed through these boards. I mean, as I also said before to Sean, Chapter 3, aka the just fuck Himiko chapter. Let's just have this magic lolly lose everything.
Himiko blown the fuck out.
Get dunked on, which is very easy for you because you are quite short.
Yeah, quite small.
We lost very, very big uwu energy with Angie, which I was never a huge fan of Angie through the game. I felt she was going on she came on way too hard and then became a cult leader, and I was just like, yeah.
Just as an aside, I really like Angie. I really like her in the same way that I really like Nagito and Byakuya. In that when she started out, well, no, not in the exact same way. Like, let me kind of explain.
Similar energy. You like her not because you want to hang out with her.
Well, that's not even necessarily true at first either, because I was almost suckered in by the cult thing. When she hugged Gonta like that, I suddenly I was actually interested in her before, because I'm like, she seems weird, but in a way that I want to hang out with her a little bit. So I did hang out with her a bit. And then when she hugged Gonta, I'm like, oh, my heart goes out to her. This is really sweet. This is wonderful. And then when she went full cult leader, I'm like, this is terrible. I hate her so much, but I love it. Cults are fascinating to me. When this happened, I was really into it. I was really into her character.
No, I mean I liked her from a villainous role as well. Although I was definitely more ooh, stay the way from this cuckoo crazy banana lady. That might just be because I have the biggest fedora to tip. I've been in a cult. No, I have the biggest fedora to tip when it comes to anything spiritual. So immediately I'm like, well, I'm not going to hang out with you. And then when she started doing her manipulations and her machinations and started a real cult, it was interesting, but I was definitely on the side of I love how everyone who's not suckered in is the angry people plus Kaito.
Yeah.
That's great.
What I pointed out is the fact that all the people who were not in the cult were the book smart people and just weren't even people like Mew. Mew's dumb, but she's not that dumb. But the people who get suckered in are Tsurugi, Himiko, Kibo, and Gonta. Probably the four dumbest people in the group. Even Kaito as well. Kaito's dumb, but he's an astronaut. He's a physicist.
Yeah. No, so no. I mean, I really like the setup to this chapter. I like the payoff. Not anything too emotionally devastating or anything like that. Just a good old fashioned caper, and I appreciated that.
We lost. Pour one out for Pride. Rip Tenko.
However, Chapter 4, we joined Griffin McElroy trapped in the VR zone.
This one I said to Sean before, when this thing was coming up and we got this whole thing coming up with this virtual world and, turning into digital champions to save the digital world. It's basically I was going in this okay, Mew's dead.
Yeah,
she
same,
knew
actually.
too much. She knew way too much. It's as if in the first or in the second game, it's if Nekomaru made Grape Tower.
Oh yeah,
It's
you know
like,
what?
well, yeah,
Yeah,
he
I
knows
feel
way
it.
too much about the situation. There's no way he's going to be in the trial about it. Same thing with
Yeah.
Mew. It's like Mew knew way too much, and it's just like going into it's like, okay, for me it was less who was going to die, it was more how's Mew going to die.
I did not see it that way, but like when it's pointed out that way, absolutely.
For me, I knew that I knew that something was gonna go down. That at minimum, Mew was up to something nefarious when she just tossed the fucking board into the sea, and like no one in the cast even questioned it. They were like, "Oh, that was dick move of her." It's like, guys, that's really suspicious.
That's
like,
Mew. What are you gonna do?
Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum.
But yeah, so, speaking of, whether or not things were emotionally devastating, this one was emotionally devastating. I legit almost cried at the result of this. I felt the tears coming on. The fucking Gonza is too good for this world. God damn it.
I was so like I was heartbroken when it's just like Kibo or Kokichi just blows up his entire game of just going, yeah, going to do it. Which is a very, very clever thing to do of going like, well, you know what? Here's my revenge. I'm not going to let you solve the case.
Yeah, and I love how it's after you try to lie to him. This is my favorite use of the lying mechanic, because Kokichi immediately sees what you're doing, and he's like, all right, dude, dick move. Like, here you go. And I really like that reaction out of him.
Yeah. And that's even the way he describes it. He goes like, I'm going to make it so, or if I can't have revenge on you in any other way, I'm going to make this not fun anymore.
Yeah. And I like the presentation of the VR zone. I like the little chibi characters. They were fun. Yeah, I mean, the way that the whole case ended up playing out, not too hard to like get your head around, but I mean, the fact that it was going to, I think, did a good amount for like me, even I, who had just been like chastising the characters for hashtag believing in your friends earlier, was still like, oh, I mean, Gonta's real suspicious with no alibi here, but like, it's Gonta, like, surely not, but it was, and I was real sad, and he got manipulated by Kokichi, and then I hated him because Gonta was such a sweet, precious boy.
Honestly, here's a weird kind of almost hot take. Gonto was too sweet for me. I liked him a lot as a character, but I never wanted to hang out with him because he just was too wholesome.
See, it's funny because in this game, I put a lot less stock in the hanging out segments. I think part of that is just because like there was a little bit more going on in terms of actual plot development, but I think that if I were to try and find more consistent improvements, I think that the way they handle like hanging out with different characters, like I was really into it when I first played the first game for like that meta level of like, oh, who you investing your time in, and like when they die, I don't know if it's just because like I'm too like I can see the seams on the formula too much at this point, but like I definitely put a lot less stock. It was just more there for the ride. Like free time started to become a bother to me, truthfully.
Yeah,
I love him.
I mean, he's great. He's a really wonderful character. As I said, he was too sweet for me. I didn't have that attachment to him. The problem is, he didn't say fuck.
Gonta doesn't fuck.
Like, we may get into that, but but the thing is that I was really compelled on the fact that he's just trying so hard, and I think throughout the entire game, I don't think he ever succeeds at anything once.
That's what was so heartbreaking to me too.
It's like he's always talking about saving people. He never does.
But he saved everyone because he found the sixth mono kid or mono cub.
Cool. I'm sure he's happy about that now. With, his charred, stabbed body is super happy about that.
I mean, God, I mean, just even like Gonta's like actions and mannerisms doing this, like when he's like actively screaming and crying, like I'm sorry, while he's choking Mew out, and like he doesn't the memory fuck up, so he doesn't even understand what's happening. Like he's just a big child, and it's like, really sad.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire thing, like it's even less like when they're going through the explanation at the end of the chapter, like even the way that Shuichi goes about it, instead of going like, let's go over the case one more time, he's going like, okay, Gonta, let's just talk this through, and if this is really okay, then like, go ahead and tell us if you're okay with this. And
God,
then at the
that
end,
was
Gonza's
devastating.
just like, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I probably did do it. And it was just like, and then like the dynamic, but even if it was like not even 2 hours worth of dynamic, but the dynamic between Kokichi and Gonta through that fourth class trial, as I was telling you in the pre-discussion, is amazing. Because Kokichi is just so mad at Gonta. He is like yelling and screaming at him. Just defend yourself. Do anything. How can you be this dumb? Just like give any defense, even if it's bad. Just say anything. And Gonta can't because he legitimately doesn't know what's happening right now. It's like,
And you know what? I mean, maybe we should move into Case 5 and Kokichi, because like I think you swayed me a little bit on him, because because at this point after the result with Gonta, I didn't really buy into a lot of what Kokichi was saying, just because he's the nonsense goblin.
It's
like,
a lie.
That's what he does. It's a lie. I mean, I think that the take you have about him and like some of his different mannerisms, I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I had pretty much written Kokichi off as like, fuck you, like for manipulating my sweet boy. Like I'm gunning for you now. Like I was totally team like Maki, like shoot him in the head at that point. So,
but like after the first sprite of him after Gonta's execution is him looking downward with a frown, his entire eyes and top of his head covered in darkness, like completely and utterly destroyed. And then immediately after that, he's just like, well, I gotta be the villain, I guess. So let's ratchet this up to 1,000,000. And like, he's suddenly the big, super evil, massive asshole punch Kaito in the face big jerk that's like ramped up to 11, like more than he had ever been. And it's just like, this doesn't, even for Kokichi, it seems a little off. Like he's not, despite him being the supreme leader, like we find this out afterwards, like in the next chapter, but he's just a friggin' dickhead. Like he's just a harmless, he's just a harmless asshole. He's just a prankster. But he's not this big murderous, I'm gonna blow everyone up with these electro bombs, I'm gonna kill everyone with the exosols. This isn't him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
No, I think
I'm sorry, Sean, go ahead.
No, I just think that there's definitely some altruism underneath Kokichi that it's hard to see, and I think like the distance from me and Gonta helped me kind of see that, because I was really into Kokichi the entire time. I hated him a lot, but I also really liked him. And like that's not to say too, I should clarify, like I was bummed when Gonta got because like I thought his whole arc was really good in that case. I really liked everything about it. As I said, I didn't have the same Gonta as my wholesome son as ya boys.
Yeah, and so with Kokichi, I think at this point, like, not that this is a problem with the game necessarily, but I think like I had early on, I had kind of written him off as like a Junko, like evil for the sake of evil type, or that like. That even though he hadn't done anything like too bad yet, I'm like, oh, he's waiting for his opportunity. So I was less invested in him just because I'd written off pretty much everything he was saying as a lie pretty early on. So I think I ended up missing some of the nuances of the next case, which we should talk about.
So since the end of chapter 3, Kaito's been slowly coughing up blood. And at this point, it's kind of gotten to the point where he's coughing up blood in front of people and can barely stand sometimes. And Kokichi now has power of exosols and captures him. And I feel like the whole Kaito slowly dying thing kind of comes to a head at this point. Especially with what happens during the chapter and Kokichi getting flattened. This, in my opinion, at least just when it comes down right to it, is the most someone has got in a murder.
Maybe. That's pretty bad.
I mean, it's fundamentally the least amount of anything that has ever remained from somebody.
It is. I'm wondering if I'm wondering if Nagito's self-inflicted torture might have been worse, if only because he had to do it himself.
The way I rationalize it is, well, for one, he kind of did it to himself, and B, if he had not died from the poison before the press, he is watching as a press slowly comes down towards him, and then I don't think he dies immediately. He at least feels some of all of his bones and organs getting crushed. It's bad.
I mean, no, don't get me wrong. It's bad. It's real bad.
I just cringed through my chair.
And at the end of the day, despite all the pain, Nagito still got poisoned.
That's
Kokichi
true.
got.
The only argument I might have in favor of Nagito is being unsure of exactly how long he was hacking at himself and how long he had to hold on to that fucking rope. But no, I mean, the slowly watching part, yeah, I didn't think about that angle.
And I think the murderer and victim working together dynamic is really an interesting one that we hadn't seen before at that point. Like, we'd seen murder and victims work together, but it was always like a trick, like with Hifumi and Celeste.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this last case, real interesting. There's a lot that went into it. I thought, for a while, that the Exisal was going to end up being like an AI, that there was going to be nobody in it, and that, like, they were both dead, and then, like, Maki was going to end up being the Black End after all. There was a lot of twists and turns, and I really love, I mean, it's really satisfying how they're the only ones who managed to, like, absolutely blow Monokuma the fuck out. Like, even he didn't know like what was happening. Like, it took Shuichi to deduce everything, and that was pretty awesome.
I'm sure he felt terrible about it too.
Yeah,
it's like after he found out, it's like, nah, we were just gonna punk out Monokuma, but you just had to solve everything, and he's just like, oh, dang it, I probably shouldn't have done that.
And then immediately tries to lie his way out of it.
Oh yeah. That's the other part. I'm glad that case just stopped.
Yes. And you know what? I mean, in defense, I was reading a little bit of, like, people's reactions. The other defense too is that maybe, like, probably felt terrible in the moment, but was the right call considering that Monokuma / Sumug had already broken the rules and tampered with cases and, like, not stuck to the script, so probably the right call there.
That said, this is probably my favorite trial of the game. I really like the whole trial. It all flows together really satisfyingly. And I like debating with Kaito and Kokichi at the same time and kind of working it all out and playing a game of wits beyond that and, you know, trying to outwork Monokuma. And I like working with Monokuma. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
This whole trial is just really fucking good. Like, the whole case is wonderful, especially because Monokuma is being hounded. So, like, you're already questioning whether Kokichi's actually the mastermind. Like, what the fuck is going on here at all? It's so fucking good.
There's the bits where they're mentioning the ultimate despair and stuff, because this is the chapter where they start bringing up the Junko and the first couple games, and, like, you can't see it and you can't really hear it, but I can imagine when they start bringing up hope and despair and the ultimate despair and such, Kaito's there flipping through the script. It's like, where does he talk about this? Because he mentioned there was a couple that the script that Kokichi wrote was so extensive it even brought up stuff like just in case we went on tangents, which was a nice little subtle nod to the back routes.
Oh yeah,
he wrote script even for the back routes.
No, I like too, because, like, even in there he's like, you know, hope, despair, the remnants of despair. And he's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? That was a really nice touch.
This.
Yeah.
Junko, what?
Junko and Noshima. Who's that? But, yeah, so then the execution is an amazingly fun callback to the first thing we see in the first game, which is Jun Kirigiri's execution. Sending his ass to space. But then it fails.
It's so good. It's
so satisfying.
The most satisfying moment, like, ever put to a video game. Just that frustration in Monokuma's face is so good.
Has anyone ever gotten to Monokuma as much as Kaito did in that moment with his final defiant "fuck you" death?
Maybe in 52.
Maybe
we'll never know.
Yeah, I remember back in Danganronpa 33 when they had that really cool like triple execution.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we come to the main event, the main course.
I demand a retrial. This really messes stuff up, in my opinion.
The retrial.
Yeah, I think entirely that the retrial messes everything up.
Okay.
Because if we're demanding that, if we're assuming, okay, first of all, let's throw this out there. Samuki is a horrible villain.
Agreed.
She just wants to be as plain as possible, so she just keeps saying the words plain and plainly a lot. She gets suspected for, you go through, I think, one nonstop debate with her as the subject, and she immediately folds.
So, like, it's not so much that she's a bad villain in, like, how she was
She's bad
written.
at her job.
Yeah, I was gonna say, she's bad at her job, which is absolutely true.
It's like she immediately freaking folds, and it's like, what are you even everyone in the game's like, defend yourself. What are you doing?
What happened?
What happened?
Even Gonta put up a better defense than you.
Gonta put up a better defense, and he wasn't even there. It's like, so, but the thing that kind of breaks it a little bit, in my opinion, is the fact that, okay, so she's this main villain conglomerate person that is, this entire thing's a ruse. It's a reality show.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. Once it comes out very early, once she's revealed to be a villain, that Samugi killed Rintaro and not Kaede, how does the legitimacy of the show not completely fall apart?
Yes. No. I mean, I get that's like the point of like what their plan is, to try and like show that the show is illegitimate, but also at this point Samugi just turns to the camera and explains the themes for about an hour or two, and I'm not too fond of it. I'm not too fond of what goes on during this last part. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree that it really brings up a lot of questions about like the many degrees of separation of like fiction and reality. My favorite little one that I noticed, I wouldn't have remembered until I noticed it during the credits, was that the credits will show all the like fancy like portrait scenes, and how she got the like cospox when she tried to be Kaede. But then I'm like, wait a minute, but Kaede's fictional too.
That's one of the reasons. That's one of the main things behind she may just be like, this may actually be legitimate and she's lying, along with the cosplay cat killer, which is a freaking stupid thing to say. When you say it out loud, it sounds dumb, doesn't it?
Oh God, oof, big oof. But yeah, so I'm gonna do my thing and talk about themes for a little bit. I'm gonna compare it to the granddaddy of all these like meta, fiction within a fiction games, Metal Gear Solid.
Buckle the fuck up.
So I won't belabor the point too much, but I think
it's
that
a lie.
It's a lie. If I think that like there's so many games that have tried to do the postmodern like plot within a plot, like say something about the nature of like the player and the fan base. Like BioShock's done this, Spec Ops: The Line has done this. None of them has done it as well or as complexly as Metal Gear Solid 2 has. And so my opinion generally, I approach these kind of games with a lot of scrutiny, because if you come at the king, you better not miss. And
God. If this was a video podcast, you'd be seeing me doing a jerk off motion this whole time.
jerk away. I deserve it, but I gotta save my piece. So my big problem is that like if you break down the different layers of reality and like what we're trying to say about what the game seems to implicitly be saying and what the characters are explicitly saying, it doesn't seem to line up in a very satisfying way. Because my first reaction was basically like, okay, the game's a big fiction. The killing game is this horrible thing. The fictional characters are suffering. I mean, obviously they're fictional, so like we don't really care about their lives in terms of like hurting people. But it's more like, okay, like, they want to stop making Danganronpas. They want to stop the killing game. Like, Danganronpa team, who hurt you? Like, blink twice if you want us to call the police. Like, seriously. And so, because the way that I see it is that you can kind of look at it, this question of like the ethics of continuing the killing game in one of two ways. You can look at it on the literal level as like a spectator, like, you know, oh, like people are kind of fucked up and disgusting for wanting to enjoy this because it's a fucked up premise about teenagers killing each other, which like I kind of just reject out of hand. I mean, I don't think there's anything unethical about engaging with art just because of its content necessarily. There's another aspect of that we'll touch on in a bit. But so for now, like, I kind of reject that out of hand, and it seems like the game sort of does too, because in addition to saying that like the killing game is wrong, it also goes out of its way to emphasize that like sometimes lies are good and that fiction can change the world and you can kind of like shape people's ideas and create your own meaning. So like at once it wants to kind of empower the audience to like feel something and like let these experiences of the characters like have a real impact on them, but at the same time like they sort of position through the like in-show audience as like a stand-in for the real audience, like, you know, interfering with the game and using Kibo as like a player stand-in, even though he hasn't really been that. It kind of wants to say, fuck you, audience, y'all are a bunch of annoying, like, preening little shits, basically. And so that kind of gets into the other, like, you know, well, is it unethical to, you know, finger quotes, keep the killing game going in real life on like a production side of things? And that, of course, is a much more nuanced, complicated question that opens a whole can of worms that I don't think we want to really get into here. But so that's the more interesting angle to me. But it seems like if it's a condemnation of the audience for wanting more, it seems like a pretty weak condemnation to me, especially given kind of the epilogue and how, like, I at least admired the ending for being ballsy until, like, you know, because the ending is like, well, you know, we're going to break out of the paradigm of, like, hope versus despair that the series has had, and we're going to let everyone die. That's the actual, like, happy ending. Like, that's a dark, interesting take on an ending that they kind of ruin when everyone's still alive anyway.
Not everyone's still alive. Kibo's still dead.
Well, I mean, Kibo's dead, but, like, I feel like
he's a robot. It doesn't matter.
That's robophobic. That is robophobic, and he will see you in court.
Bringing it down. Sean getting taken down for hate speech. What a fate. But so, yeah, like I feel like if you're gonna go hard on like that dark ending and also just saying like, well, maybe the Hope's Peak people are actually real, and like, you know, that was a lie on Samugi's part. It felt like it felt very weak after what should have been like a big, strong, controversial like ending. It felt like too much of an olive branch. I think if you're gonna go hard against your audience like that, I think you got to stick to your guns, and I think that the epilogue undoes a lot of that. But that's just what I think.
No, I'm gonna say that I really liked the ending of Danganronpa 3, right up into the epilogue. I think ending with like Kibo looking at the pile of rubble slowly moving, like indicating that someone might still be alive under there, is not a bad way to end it, because it does kind of say, you know, maybe they went about their lives incognito, like there's still that friendship theme running through it that I like, but I think them being like, well, let's go see what's outside and, you know, make friends with the people that wanted to watch us kill each other, despite fucking Smoog being like, hey, don't do that, they just still want to see you kill each other. It kind of undermines it in a lot of ways. It's the epilogue's a bummer for me, but I think the ending, other than that, is still interesting. And I think it's interesting for reasons that I talk about this a little bit in our Mafia 2 bonus episode that's going out tomorrow. But basically what it boils down to is, if a video game makes me feel something, I arguably say it's a success. And playing this, I definitely felt caught up in the moment. So maybe the themes aren't as coherent as they need to be, but I feel like they're coherent enough that like I understand what the developer was feeling when they made this scene, as well as like it works as a scene.
I could see
Tom,
that.
you got anything to add about this?
I don't really see it as kind of ruining the moment at all, to be honest with you. I don't really think that it Like the whole fact is just like we're rejecting hope, we're rejecting despair. We're gonna win by, or Suichi wins by doing absolutely nothing. I think the fact that they make it out of there just kind of if it was just like they're all fictional characters and then they just all die in the end, like even if that is supposed to be the like that's how we beat the killing game, I don't think that's really satisfying at all.
See, but they were saying so much earlier that like that satisfaction of like, you know, hope triumphing over despair is what the audience kind of craves.
I wanted to be denied that satisfying ending.
Same.
I was begging for this game to like leave me unsatisfied because that would have been the most ballsy move. Sorry, I know I'm cutting you off a little bit, but
Well, at the end of the day, like at least in my mind, if they all die in the end, then what was the point of the entire game? Like, what was the point? What was the point of all the strife they went through? What was the point of Himiko's and Maki's character development? Like anything, it's like, oh nope, just died.
I kind of felt like that with the twist already, to be honest. But like the fact that everything was so
it's a lie.
It's a lie, and like I know, and so like the actual answer to what I'm saying is because, well, like, you know, even though it's fiction, that doesn't mean that the feelings you felt weren't real, which I agree with. But at the same time, again, because it wants to have that sort of message, but also condemn the audience for wanting that validation of hope, even though that, like, I don't know. I think it's a little bit muddled in that regard. So I'm not sure.
They've given them at the end of the day, if they ever do want to go back to the well and make another Danganronpa, they've given themselves about 7 or 8 different outs from the whole. This is a lie. This is a reality show thing.
And see, I think that's at least part of the reason why I'm kind of down on it, is because I wanted it to be very final. And so, like, when it wasn't, like, I mean, I'm going to kind of dissect a couple things in what I'm saying here, because, like, I agree that, like, ending it with, like, no one having any meaning to their character development, like, felt like really the point of it. Jackson was kind of saying that a little bit. So like I wasn't opposed to them just being like, yeah, none of it fucking mattered because it's reality TV show. It doesn't fucking matter. I was really into that. And as I said, like I wanted to be left unsatisfied, which is a weird thing for me to want. Like I think like that's a really good, I am kind of left unsatisfied.
See, that's the thing that I found in my reactions to be somewhat frustrating, is that I was like, like I feel like I've walked into the trap a little bit, like, but at the same time, I like it could be possible that I'm just feeling I've been got by the ending to a greater degree than I'm giving it credit for. But at the same time, I think some of my grievances are legitimate. I think
another thing that may address or contribute to that is, Sean, you beat this game like 4 days ago.
Yeah.
And Jackson, you beat this game like 12 hours ago.
Yeah, I beat it this morning, so probably less than 12 hours ago.
According to my backlog rate, I beat this October 4th, 2017. So I've been mulling on this ending for about almost 2 years now.
You know what? That's fair.
So I've definitely, like, trust me, when I first started this, or when I first got to this ending, I hated it. I was like, what the hell are you doing? Why would you take the game in this direction of it all being fake? Like, what's the point of, why did I even bother playing any of this or watching any of those crappy animes? It's like, oh, what are you doing? And it's like mulling it over again, watching different people play through it and stuff like that, and mulling it over. I'm going like, yeah, you know, I could see this entire ending being like, you know, all right, Smoogy's still crap. But that's like, Smoogie being the villain is like if Hero was the villain. It's like,
but also like legitimately needing to prove ghosts are not, like, you are not a ghost to him was not part of his villainous plot. Like that,
you had to prove to Smoogie it wasn't ghosts either. In the third case,
yep, I do remember that. Yeah,
son of a bitch. There's another sad bit to this retrial, which you'd have to go back and watch somebody play the first trial again. At least Angie, and I think maybe Ryoma too. Some of their ideas they had the first time the trial went around were true, but we disproved them.
Oh shit.
Like the person hiding in the hidden room. Angie brought that up. And we were like, no, that can't be the case. And like we ourselves proved it wrong when, guess what? This whole thing could have been over in the first trial.
Oh my god.
That's really good. That's a really good bit of foreshadowing. Holy shit.
Anything we want to say real quick about the two people that were along for the ride but that wasn't really big into the things or any case because they weren't a murderer or a victim, that being Himiko and Maki?
Okay, yeah. So with Maki, at least, I really liked her character. I like the midnight training sessions with her and Kaido. I liked her background as like the assassin and that reveal. And I mean, it's pretty well trodden ground as far as like, oh, she like learns to warm up to people or whatever. But it was executed fine, and like her still bringing out some of that assassin heat on occasion was fun. So yeah, I liked her character. Himiko, I was less thrilled about. I thought her like tics were kind of annoying. And like I thought that the characters kind of satelliting her character art, Angie and Tanko, were also pretty annoying. So more of a wash on that, but I didn't dislike her really. So,
I was really into Maki, and Himiko, I think, really grew into herself as the trials went on. I really, really like started to feel for her towards the end there when like things just kept happening to her, and it was so bad. That really kind of sucked. But
is she the most pathetic survivor of all these games?
Define pathetic.
I was gonna say counterpoint Genocide Jack.
Counterpoint hero.
So like when I say pathetic, I mean like Hero's pathetic in the sense that like Hero's pathetic, but he's not aware of how pathetic he is, which I think earns him some confidence points. Whereas like Himiko is like truly like, oh fuck, like everything is terrible, like what is even going on, like oh woe is me. Whereas like Togo's a good candidate in general for perhaps being more pathetic. But again, I would say that Genocide Jack's pure insanity gives her some bonus points in that regard.
You just like Genocide Jack, though.
I do like Genocide Jack. What can I say?
One thing I do like about this game is that there is, I'd say, at least 3 double ultimates in the game. You've got Ryoma, who's the ultimate tennis pro and the ultimate prisoner. You've got Maki, who I'd say is legitimately still the ultimate child caregiver, as much as she hates that title. Because she has all the stuff
I really
with
like
the
that.
Kids at the orphanage.
Yeah, I really like that integration into her backstory with that.
And then you've got Rantaro, which you don't really find out unless you do his personal free time events, which I don't think you can even do until the post-game Salmon team, where you find out he is the ultimate survivor, but apparently in Danganronpa 52, he was also the ultimate adventurer.
Ooh.
And he's trying to find his lost sister.
Oh my god, what a cool guy. I fucking love Rantaro.
No,
Effing chat too soon.
Rantaro was fucking sick. I was really into him right away.
Yeah.
Do you wanna open up for like at least a short Q&A, because we've been going for a while as it is. So like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a long game, and I think the people deserve it. So.
Well, I'm gonna start by just addressing Julius Squeaks, who says that the point of the game ending with like no one doing like all their character arcs not meaning anything would have been despair. I kind of said, I mentioned in chat, like just saw this what you guys were talking, like, but that would have been satisfying, and I think that's why it couldn't end like that. Because if they just ended with nobody's, like nobody's story arc mattering, like that would play into Smoog and the audience saying like, hey, we want despair or we want hope, and like for none of it to matter, that's just despair. That's definition of despair, and therefore not a valid ending. I think I'm coming around on this goddamn epilogue, and I hate it because like
come to it,
because like it is both. It's incredibly unsatisfying, which is 100% the point. And
yeah,
like
that's absolutely what they were going for. This whole game is meant to be like, at the end of the day, it seems like they just don't want you to be satisfied.
Yeah, like I was talking myself into it because like you're right. To have everything wiped away would be despair, and that's one of the endings that would have been quote unquote good. And so for everything to be wiped away, but then for them to still be alive is just so wholly unsatisfying.
But that's still a kind of hope. I think it's kind of contradictory either way. I think
it can be neither. If it was neither, it would just. I think with it being neither, the trial would have ended and then credits.
Yeah, I tend to agree because I think that basically
the most unsatisfying.
What the story is implicitly trying to do is not have themes, which it can't. Because in order to be truly unsatisfying, it would need to have no point at all. But it clearly does because it's a 40-hour-long production, which I think is some of my dissatisfaction with it.
I don't think it has no themes.
Well, no, I think it does, but I think it doesn't want to, if you see what I mean.
I think if they didn't want themes, they could have gone about it a lot easier than they did.
Well, right. So, all right. So let me re-explain. So,
because like you still need something to pull people through the story.
Yeah. So I think that what they're trying to do with making it unsatisfying is they're setting up you want hope, you want despair. Those are the two prominent themes of the Danganronpa series. And what we're gonna try and do is make an ending that has neither of these. And we want to go outside the paradigm and maybe have a different theme of this ultimately doesn't matter. So I shouldn't say it wasn't aiming for no themes, but I think that they kind of shot themselves in the foot by having the series binary be so kind of black and white of hope versus despair, and that I think that whatever choice they made is going to kind of inherently be one or the other, more inspiring or more of a downer, which might be where some of my tensions with some of the contradictions are coming from. But I don't know.
In other news, I just put it in the chat and the Twitch, but that's Kibo's name in kanji, and it looks like a little face.
Oh,
cute. Anyways, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, this is a great Q&A.
No, I was gonna say, shit. Doja Kimbo asks what ultimate we claim to be, and that's something that we meant to talk about when it came back around. And I actually have thought about it a little bit, but I didn't think to mention it to Jackson. So I don't know if Jackson's thought about it at all.
I've had it on my mind. I don't know if I've come to a super satisfactory answer. The sick truth is I might be the ultimate Mario Party player, which is really pathetic.
I think mine, and this is going to be one that I'm going to need to explain a little bit, because I think it both kind of sounds egotistical, but also I'm putting myself down.
The ultimate big dick badass.
No, I would basically describe myself as the ultimate average. And let me explain that. In that,
oh, sure.
Well, no, this sounds like I'm putting myself down, but let me actually go in and explain what I mean by that. Because I have always had a relatively innate ability to pick something up and be decent at it almost immediately. I'm not nothing I pick up I am necessarily inherently good at, but I am good at anything that I pick up enough that I can fall into the average of things, which I don't think is inherently a bad skill. I think that there's something to be said for that. And if I work at something, I can push myself beyond that. But I think inherently being able to pick something up and be all right at it is a good skill. And I think saying the ultimate average kind of falls in with who I am.
So the ultimate jack of all trades.
Exactly, yeah. But not the ultimate maid, who's the ultimate jack of all trades to such a level that she's the ultimate prime minister.
Yeah.
Yes.
So would it be fair to say that you are average on the outside, average on the inside? You don't really have much going for you when it comes to grades, special abilities, or even personality. You have hobbies or stuff you like to do, but it's not like you're a psychic or a mutant or whatever. Would that be an apt description?
Did you just read that off something?
That's how Makoto Naegi describes himself in the opening of Danganronpa 1.
That's the first couple lines of Danganronpa 1.
Oh. Yeah. I mean... No, because Makoto isn't the ultimate, average, you know? I feel like the ultimate average, because, I'm interested in basically, if you put something in front of me, I can find a way to be interested in it. I can find hobbies in anything. I think that's what I'm defending here.
Also, I like while I'm thinking about it, since mine is a less philosophical deep dive into my soul. But
Yeah, sorry about that.
no, you're good. I mean, I just feel like I don't have anything interesting like that to say that I'd be an ultimate at. I probably will expand my ultimate description from just ultimate Mario Party player. I'll say ultimate Nintendo fan. I think that's a reasonable title to claim.
Have
for
you
me.
threatened anyone who works at Nintendo with death?
No.
Then you're
but
not
that
an
makes me
ultimate fan.
That makes me superior to them, though.
Have you ever flicked the stick on N64 to make the answer to "Do you want a star?" be yes to no, and got Sean really mad?
Shut up! Leave me alone.
Amazing.
Do we? As I said, we've gone long anyway. We'll take one more if anybody has it, but if not, I'm not gonna worry too much about it.
I guess I don't get to be an ultimate.
Well, I'm sorry, Tom. What is your ultimate? I that was my total bad.
I just wanted to be your bad. I didn't think of anything.
Oh,
Like ultimate Final Fantasy 13 stan.
Hell yeah, own it.
Ultimate Dangan fan. Hey, that's problematic.
Wow, the third Dangan V3 hates you.
Any hopes for the next game? Well, I hope it actually happens.
I hope it doesn't happen.
I hope Death March Club isn't as bad as it seems like it's gonna be.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they make a new series, I'm into it. I'll play it. I'll play like the non-area time games. I'll play around with like if they tried like something different. I hope that we don't get another strict Danganronpa.
I hope the next game in the series is called Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Monokuma is the last fighter on the Fighter's Pass, because that'll be satisfying. Because I will admit, as far as like being defensive, I did feel a little called out when Monokuma was like, everyone loves me, there's merchandise, and I'm like, oh David, I do love Monokuma. Like I like a game with the exact same mechanics and the exact same premise with no Monokuma makes me sad. So
Legitimately, when he said that, two thoughts raced through my head. One, when I was at an anime convention with both of you, one of you bought a Monokuma plush, the other one almost did, and two, I want to buy Monokuma merchandise, and that makes me feel bad about myself.
I mean, he was saying that, and I just kind of looked to my left, and I'm like, "Hi, Monokuma. How you doing, buddy?"
All right. Well, I mean, I'm gonna call it here just because, as I said, this has been a long discussion as it is. Tom, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Is there anything you want to pitch? Anything you want to talk about?
Even if you've heard this podcast we've done, or any of the previous ones that they did on the games, give them a shot. They're pretty fun. There's a couple of games in the series, one game in the series that you shouldn't play, but the other ones are really good.
And it's the one that we haven't talked about. So if you go through our backlog and you're like, hey, they didn't talk about this one, that's why.
Hey, they didn't talk about Ultra Despair Girls.
Yeah.
Don't play that one.
that's a great title, though, I will say.
It is.
Doesn't make sense with the game.
Oh, unfortunate.
All right, well, cool. I've been Sean McKinda. Follow me on Twitter at Sean_McKinda. Follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/uppers_Skippy. It's also where you can listen to our live episodes, where some people are currently doing that. And if you're listening to this after it's already been live, go over there, follow, get the updates on when I'm going live. I'm also playing a shit ton of stuff. I'm playing Mario 64 right now, going on vacation next week. I come back, I'm going to be playing Persona 4. So hang out for that.
And I'm Jackson Keller. You can find me over at twitch.tv/JacksonJKeller. I'm mostly use it as a feed to play Sean's streams and my friend Connor streams, who I am a frequent guest on both. I have been streaming more by myself now, especially now that Mario Maker 2 has come out. I probably will be playing that a lot. So if you have levels you want me to play on stream, stop by, give me a code. Let's have fun.
Or drop them in my Discord, actually. There's a whole thing there for that too. So just pitching that because I can right now. If you want to get in contact with the podcast, you can do so by tweeting at us at BADH_cast on Twitter. I just post on there occasionally. It's not a huge thing for us, but if you want to talk to us, you can do so that way. You can also get in contact with us by going to our Discord, not my Discord, our Discord, and you can get access to that by being a patron over at patreon.com/BADHcast. We got 3 tiers. Any one of those tiers will get you access to our Discord, and anything from the $5 tier and up gets you access to our bonus episodes, which we have a bonus episode coming out tomorrow if you're listening to the live show, or yesterday if you're listening to the pre-recorded episode. So...
And thank you so much to our $10 patrons, Julia, Travis, my mom, my aunt. Thanks, guys. Here's your $10 shout-out.
Y'all are great. Thanks, as always, to Lords of Highway for the use of our theme song. It is Suicide, alternate take off the album High Octane, Low Expectations. They're on Spotify, all the other places that you can get music. They're a great band. You should go listen to them. Also, thanks to 25yearslatersite.com for the endorsements. You guys are a bunch of really, really talented writers doing a bunch of really, really talented writing stuff about all sorts of things. I write there occasionally, too, but I'm not as talented. I'm the ultimate average. Yeah, so go click on their stuff, read their articles and all that good stuff. Next week, we will not be having an episode. I'm sorry, but as I said, we will backfill that. We've got a ton of really interesting stuff coming out in the rest of July. We'll be back on the 18th with Ari Aster's new movie, Midsummer. So, yeah, get involved with that. Tom, any closing words?
So long. Farewell.
Don't you go into the ground. Don't you go